This is the best timeline. Can you imagine the funny shit we're going to get to see? How stupid this is going to become? This is going to be great!
Ah, yes. Thank you, Jim, for the words of amusement. So before I go any further here, Styx, 3 days ago.
They're clearly trying to force him out of the race. We might get news this weekend that that's actually going to happen. Hell, we could get news this fucking evening that that's going to happen.
Very good. Styx, 2 days ago.
I can't tell you what's going to happen, which decision Joe Biden and the people around him are going to make. I can't really predict that. But I can predict that it'll be political chaos no matter what happens. So it's going to be great. This weekend is probably going to be lit. If it's not an announcement this weekend, it'll be over the coming days. It'll probably be a weekend announcement.
And that is why we watch Styx. Now, in case you've been asleep at the wheel, don't worry, so is Biden. And still is sleeping, I think. And the drooling is coming to an end. Officially. I say officially because, well, you'll see in a few moments. But before we get into this circus freak show, I have to say this. Going back all the way to 2020, but especially in the last year or so, if you still think, oh, but my constitution, checks and balances, the rule of law republic after everything that's transpired, if you still buy into any of that, forever will you remain drugged out of your mind and the art of politics is beyond your comprehension. Seriously, your constitution is but a piece of paper with the scribblings of dead historical figures, scribblings which intended to move the hearts and minds of men. If they are not receptive to them, your constitution becomes nothing more than a piece of antiquity. I think you can argue it already has, and has been so for decades. The interests of the elite animate the bags of flesh you call politicians via these things called power and money. You but dance harmoniously with them in this game of power theater, and that's all. To paraphrase some lines from Yarvin's latest piece, you're not on drugs, and you're not in a movie. You're just moving through history, and you're seeing bits of sobering reality. Yes, democracy is pretty. When you want a pretty ideal whose reality can never be real, what you get is an ugly reality you were never supposed to see. But now you have to see it. It's not that the system is suddenly lying to you, as that the system's mechanism for lying to you is suffering a system error. And the longer it takes to repair the error, the more damage is done to the system's credibility. But I digress, the show must go on. Now, Styx did a really good piece where he mentioned the palace intrigue about the Clintonian and the Obama factions of the Democratic Party. It's like the old aristocratic families in a feud, endorsing royalty, political dynasties of our time. You ever played Dragon's Age back in the day? Remember the Landsmeet? Yeah, imagine that. And it's curious because the Obamas did not endorse Biden, told him to step down in so many ways, whereas the Clintons hedged their bets on the old horse. I imagine the Obamas and Clintons hate each other. Hillary for obvious reasons. I'm just going off stories about her, former staff members, Secret Service personnel, many of whom have said she is extremely vindictive. And I'm being polite here. Good friends to have, enemies you never want to have. Seeing how she behaved post the Trump presidency, not a day goes by where she doesn't think about 2016 and curses his name. And when she looks at someone like Harris, the thought of someone like her, who's nowhere near as impressive a political specimen as Clinton, would become president, I think sears the soul that she no longer possesses. But anyways, funnies, back to the mysteriously missing oof. Biden just yesterday stating, it's a miracle Trump told the truth, and saying he will beat Trump. Biden several hours later, Biden drops his abstaining from the race announcement on X. No press conference, no official channels, just on X, leading to Orrin McIntyre stating the following. Twitter isn't real life, but also the sitting president can basically be overthrown if a screenshot appears on his official account. An astute observation that appears to be eerily correct, which leads us to this one from Carl Becker. Let's recap this historic day. Joe Biden suddenly resigns via X. White House staff find out 1 minute later. That's probably the most insane piece about all of this, that the White House staff itself were not even informed about this. They only found out on X, which no doubt raises a lot of eyebrows. Joe Biden's resignation letter not on official letterhead. Biden's signature suspect. Yeah, that's been making the rounds. The fact that the signature on the resignation doesn't match the previous one seen on executive orders. Then again, mismatching signatures is not a concern for Democrats, only an obstacle. Stephen Ricchetti helped write the letter. Jill Biden tweets a heart emoji response. White House wipes Biden's schedule. White House Chief of Staff calls cabinet, manages comms. Frank Biden, Joe Biden's younger brother, confirms health a factor. Family suggests Biden may have terminal illness. Yeah, it's called being ancient. Joe Biden holds no live press conference. Where is Joe? Just another perfectly normal day in Biden's America. Now, as of writing this video, there's been no news of Biden's whereabouts, his current state, or anything, so who on earth knows? This is insane. But before I get into any of that, yes, this entire thing is a sham, but how did we get here? Well, first off, anyone with a functioning pair of eyeballs knew the fossil was only ever going to be a one-termer if he somehow got in, because the Grim Reaper was already side-eyeing that dude over 4 years ago. Look at this. Stay alive, Joe Biden. The Atlantic, March of 2020. Given his lackluster performances, being animated by the spirit of a fellow one-termer, Jimmy Carter, who is still alive, and if he manages to outlive Biden, would be absolutely astonishing. The prospect of him serving more than 4 years seemed genuinely deranged, even back in 2020. But for Trump, purely from a public-driven momentum perspective, the mugshot was really the most visible initiation of the momentum shifting in his favor. And then, of course, we had the debates, the reaction to which was actually perplexing to me, because the media BSing and gaslighting everyone, telling them not to believe their lying eyes, all of a sudden could see reality for once in nearly 3.5 bloody years, when the presence of a coif of blonde hair was in the vicinity, and the contrast was now apparently too stark, and needing to salvage what little was left of their reputation and dignity, admittedly not much, had to do the one thing that induces a feeling of nausea and existential dread if you exist in the media sphere. Tell the truth that all was not well with Joseph Biden. Both sides were shocked, just for different reasons. One side that Joe Biden's mind is holier than the Vatican, the other side that for once the mainstream media was telling the truth. Which one is more horrifying, I will let you decide. And as if it couldn't get any worse optically for Biden, Trump, by the grace of God or whatever divine being you believe in, avoids an assassination attempt, and from this emerges an iconic piece of American history. Trump defiantly standing there with blood dripping down half his face, fists hoisted in the air, and the American flag waving behind him. Pretty much everyone went, well, that's it, he's won re-election. Even lefties went, oh, come on! Devoid of any concept of heroism, even they knew, given that they've been awakened by the debate performances, that is, that it's pretty much game, set, and match at this point, which, given my cynicism and recognizing that politics is nothing but a damn theater show, my initial reaction was, this was all time to suck away Trump's momentum and focus the camera on Biden, or at the very least divert attention away from the shenanigans involving the diverse female character that is the Secret Service. But then, even Styx pointed this one out. Did Biden have a stroke recently? Because as degraded as Biden has appeared at this point, that slow walk-up Air Force One was a noticeable dip. Even I was eyeing that thinking, okay, any minute now he's done. And I don't mean being the president. Which brings us to an obvious question. Where the hell do we go from here? Because let's get one thing straight. Functionally speaking, Biden was never more than a figurehead from day one. This whole thing is one gigantic cope of keeping up appearances. Never mind the emperor has no clothes, the emperor has no fucking head. He was never running the country, which makes it all the more horrifying that his current condition in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter at all. Hell, there were scores of articles years ago asking who is really running the United States, because as sure as hell isn't Biden. Man can't even run a bath without tripping over it chasing a dog's tail or something. Enter this post from Mark Dice. Biden has dropped out. He's staying in as president, but is ending his re-election campaign. He endorsed Kamala as his choice for the nominee, but it's not his choice. It's up to the delegates at the Democrat convention. Looks like it's going to be an open primary, so other challengers will likely throw their hat in the ring and throw Kamala under the bus. Buckle up. So much for that whole democracy thing. Now you'll have spaced out groups of moneyed interests selecting the Democratic candidate.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
And I don't like either, because it's cringe. Let's start with the cackler, because Biden endorsed her. I'm not one to mix words here. Kamala Harris is an incompetent moron. I don't mean that disparagingly. No, I mean that quite literally. This is a woman that Tulsi Gabbard rocked into orbit during the debate, so much so that she dropped out of the primaries in 2020 before it even got to her state of California. She was in 4th place behind Sanders, Warren, and Biden. Pretty sure she was polling in less than 2% at the time. And after she dropped out, she would go on to be selected as the VP, classic Democratic politics, failing upward, and cackled when prompted by Stephen Colbert about her heavy blows against Biden, trying to laugh it off, going, "It was a debate, someone get the damn straitjacket." But I want to pull up this article here. This was from November of 2021. Exasperations and dysfunction inside Kamala Harris's frustrated start as vice president. Because I don't know if you guys can recall this, but there was a period where she was burning through staff, left, right, and freaking center. As a matter of fact, she's been known for doing this since her days in San Francisco. Aides was saying she was rude, she was lazy, she wouldn't do any work, blaming the aides, and generally speaking was just a nightmare to deal with. Worn out by what they see as entrenched dysfunction and lack of focus, key West Wing aides have largely thrown up their hands at Vice President Kamala Harris and her staff, deciding there simply isn't time to deal with them right now. Oh, I wonder why. The exasperations run both ways. Interviews with nearly 3 dozen former and current Harris aides, administration officials, Democratic operatives, donors, and outside advisors who spoke extensively to CNN reveal a complex reality inside the White House. Many in the vice president's circle fume that she's not being adequately prepared or positioned and instead is being sidelined. The vice president herself has told several confidants she feels constrained in what she's able to do politically, and those around her remain wary of even hinting at future political ambitions, with Biden's team highly attuned to signs of disloyalty, particularly from the vice president. She's a heartbeat away from the presidency now, quite literally. She could be just a year away from launching a presidential campaign of her own, given doubts throughout the political world that Biden will actually go through with the re-election bid in 2024, something he's pledged to do publicly and privately. Or she'll be a critical validator in 3 years for a president trying to get the country to re-elect him to serve until he's 86. Man, this has aged deliciously poorly. Few of the insiders who spoke with CNN think she's being well prepared for whichever role it will be. Harris is struggling with a rocky relationship with some parts of the White House, while long-standing supporters feel abandoned and see no coherent public sense of what she's done or been trying to do as vice president. Being the first woman of color in national elected office is historic, but has also come with outsized scrutiny and no forgiveness for even small errors, as she'll often point out. See, almost 3 years ago, you could see where this was all going. She was selected because of the melanin count and the ovaries in an age of identity politics. Anyone who isn't a complete imbecile knew this. Given her abysmal showings in the primaries, no worthwhile achievements as the AG of California, not to mention her political career started as being somebody's mistress, given all of that then, for her to express irritation that she faced outsized scrutiny just adds to the perception that she is in fact an incompetent idiot. You were always gonna face outsized scrutiny because you were the least qualified person for the job, you dim-witted wanker. And for whatever godforsaken reason, she was still enough of a noob to think this was all somehow going to behoove her politically. She was put in charge of the border and AI. She has expertise in neither. The irony, considering her entry into politics, putting her in charge of getting people not to come. My word, the memes write themselves. Not to mention she reeks of artificial and having fuck-all intelligence. This all became glaringly apparent rather rapidly, whether it was her cackling maniacally at everything, her childishly dim-witted ways of explaining foreign policy, saying the same phrase over and over again in perpetuity, generally having no social skills whatsoever. They basically retired her from public appearances and shoved her into a broom closet. Prior to the last 2 days, when was the last time you even heard her name mentioned in anything significant? Because I can't recall any. She was an embarrassment to the entire administration. So to describe this situation as a shit show would be the understatement of the damn century. And from what I've seen, at least on social media, They are going straight back to the sexist and racist trope yet again when it comes to the DEI VP, because she has absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. No achievements, no charm, no personality, no political shrewdness, nothing. So what happens now? There's still 4 months to go. If Biden can't run for re-election to run the country, what's the argument for him remaining president now? What's the argument against 25thing the guy? Who's going to be the Democratic nominee? The VP? Are we going to have any more debates? It appears we are in uncharted waters here, so who the hell knows? But let me just end this video with this. The funniest bit to emerge from all of this. Trump campaign response to vice presidential debates. We don't know who the Democratic nominee for vice president is going to be, so we can't lock in a debate before their convention. To do so would be unfair to Gavin Newsom, J.P. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, or whoever Kamala Harris picks as her running mate. Jim, you want to wrap this up?
This is a fucking comedy. This is a comedy and it's just starting.
Perfect. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.